So why don't I start off with my personal experience of how I started off kind of in equity research. It wasn't as much trading, it was analysis. And then when I really got into trading more so was like the beginning of 2017 with crypto, very heavy. And before I even started trading any real money, like I did a thorough uh, research, like basically spent like 6 months prior to like reading about this stuff and understanding it, getting a good sense of it, and then how could I apply some of my fundamental research background to crypto? Because I've always been interested in charts, but I knew that there was some sort of edge there. So that's how I take a very macro approach to this space. But, prior to that, I was living in New York City. I was a DJ at one point where like my lifestyle, I wouldn't say was very healthy. I moved to California. I developed an active lifestyle. I started to, treat my nutrition more seriously, exercise regularly. And when I came back, I had a much different approach to markets in the sense that I had escapes like photography, and that was a flourishing business that I had, as well as a more disciplined approach to my trading to where I could kind of really hone in what I was good at, what I was bad at. But I kind of nixed all of those kind of bad things
Right.
in terms of like, as you said, you can't be waking up hungover and doing this stuff. And it's the mindset that makes you, it's not all of it, but it helps you to really perform your best as a trader because you need to be on top of your game, right? You need to be in tune with yourself. And being in tune with yourself is understanding the parameters you've laid out as a trader, the discipline that needs to be put into your practice. And that all stems from, as we've spoken about, a daily routine, right? And trading is an extension of your daily routine. So, even during this quarantine and making these videos and trading during this time, like I've never been more hyper focused. And it's really cool because it's taught me a lot about the things, this school of thought we've come up with, essentially, of like liquidity theory, applying the basics. And it's a program that if you're disciplined and you stay on track with kind of the parameters you've set out, it can be helpful and everyone can learn from it and become a successful trader from it. And I think you have very different outlets where everyone's not going to be the same, right? Like I love fishing, so that's something that I do. Like I maybe I'll get in a trade and it's a set and forget. I'm in my entry, my stop loss is set, my exit, and I'm tuna fishing. I'm not thinking about the price, and that's because I trust my system, whether it be it's a first touch of a DBS zone and my invalidation level is off a swing low, that if it goes against me, I'm out. And then I come back to the screen and I reassess. Photography is a really good one for me too. Um, it's a business too, but it is a form of escape. And I'm also really close to my family. So like these are all things that everyone else is going to be different from. I know that you have video games as somewhat of an outlet. You have looks like an awesome dog. So you spend a lot of time with your dog. So yeah, I think the point of this video is just to let people know that we're all human. We have routines, and the more you stick to it, the more disciplined and more successful you're likely going to be as a trader because you're true to yourself and then you're true to your craft. So
Exactly. And I think, as traders, we really have to adopt this mindset that it's a solo sport, right? So we don't really know what might work for other people, probably doesn't work for us, and that's completely fine, right? So I know personally when I first started getting into trading, I really thought that I had to be scalping every single move, low time frame, and I just get bogged up in things. And I realized I take more losses than wins, and I had no edge. And I realized like that's not the type of lifestyle I like, right? So I do like playing video games. I do like spending time with my dog and my girlfriend and my loved ones, and just doing things outside of trading. So the idea of swing trading for me was a pretty interesting concept, right? So every candle is 4, 6, 12 hours, whatever the case is, and I don't need to be behind the screen 24/7. It's that freedom to do whatever else I want that really made trading in this type of form appealing to me. So, I think everyone has to find themselves. There's no right or wrong answer to trading. But like as you said, being consistent, having a routine and being disciplined is the only way you're actually going to find what works for you. And that might not work for other people, and that's completely fine. again, trading is a solo sport. So I think the real purpose is to kind of give people an understanding that trading is not necessarily a rigid set of rules, but there is a framework that if you follow, you're more likely to succeed, right? So the reason we create a trading plan, a system, and even a journal is because you want to find out what conditions it takes to be profitable consistently and do that over and over again. And that only happens with consistency and discipline. So the overarching point is that, it doesn't matter whether you're coming from a janitor background or you're a fisherman or you're a cook or whatever other background you came from, find that outlet that when things get stressful, and they will get stressful, right? Trading is not easy. Anyone who tells you otherwise is completely lying. It gets stressful, and that's fine. But having that outlet to separate yourself and kind of detach from the screens, like you said, going tuna fishing, win or lose, you're in the trade. Whatever happens, happens. You'll assess afterwards. You'll write it in your journal. You'll get back to it. So having that outlet is key. And then the work-life balance, right? Like I know personally, when I first got into trading crypto, I was watching the screens 24/7. I was trading in class. I was falling asleep at my desk trading. And it just wasn't healthy, right? You talk about being in New York and having this unhealthy lifestyle. And it wasn't until you changed that and I changed what I was doing that I actually started being profitable, right? So as we said, trading is tough enough as it is. But once you start removing those personal pitfalls where you might, catch yourself over trading or trading hours you shouldn't be trading, that's when you start eliminating the losses and start racking up more wins and losses, right? So I think it's inevitable in most traders' careers path. Maybe you start off profitable, and that's great. You know what? Tell me your secret, please. But most people, they start off making big losses, and then they start off making little losses, and then they start breaking even. So it's that transition from big losses to little losses to breaking even. That's the evolution of a trader, to be honest with you. You don't just start making money off the cuff, right? So you need an edge. And as you go from big losses to little losses to break even, and hopefully you're journaling this whole time, you actually find out, hey, why was I making big losses here? And why am I breaking even here? And in between that, there's an edge. I guarantee you, you will look through your journal notes and you'll say, hey, this is what ties these losers together. And this is why I started breaking even. I started doing these things. And maybe it's just simple as I started sleeping more. I exercised, I ate right. Whatever the case is, you'll notice that pattern. And that's what you really got to start delving into and crafting a system out of. So yeah, I think that's a really good introduction into kind of what it takes to be a trader and our personal backgrounds and kind of how the evolution of going from losing to breaking even to making money, right?
Yeah, and that's really reflective of, look, there's no secret that it takes a lot of time to learn this, and that is screen time. But it's got to be the right screen time, and then how you are reflecting on that screen time, right? It can be a waste of time or it can be incredibly valuable. It's how you approach, the day to day, and then, okay, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? Because the more you recognize what you did right and what you did wrong, the faster you're going to be able to jot down the things that are right and the things that are wrong. And then you're set up to understand, I shouldn't be doing this, right? Or this is a setup I really like. And that's going to, again, it's a path that's going to help you figure out, okay, what is the mold I want to be as a trader and what do I need to do? And we talk to a lot of other Twitter traders and we're very close with them, and everyone has different systems and different routines.
Yep.
It's not something that you can just mimic and think that it's going to work for you. And that, as we've talked about, kind of reflects back to like, what kind of person are you and what makes you tick and how are you at the top of your game, right? I need to do certain things to be at the top of my game. Like I can't sit at the screen for so long where it just becomes like diminishing value at some point. I need to go do something else. Like I'll go on a walk. I'll go on a 5-mile walk. I'll come back. I'll have a fresh look. And then I'll look at the chart and say, you know what? Maybe I was wrong on my assessment here, but I always need to come back to the screen. I have to leave it and come back. And we sit in Crypto Insiders all day and we give people analysis. And the point of that is to help guide them to where they can start thinking on their own. But like, there's times where I'm like, guys, I'm going to enjoy the weekend. And that's important stuff. You need to be able to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because it's so stressful and it's an emotional profession. So yeah, I hope this kind of helps people understand that it takes time to figure it out. And being in course 3 now, going through 1 and 2, you've learned a lot of the fundamental stuff. Okay, what's SR, supply and demand, market structure, all these things. And that's great and that's concrete and that's what you want to have a very good understanding of. But like putting it all together, there's a huge mental component of it.
Oh yeah.
Having the mental capacity to execute trades along these things that you know and you've learned is a whole nother part of the equation. And we're here to help you guys, but we just want to share kind of like what it's all about and what we've gone through and how it's evolved for us. And it's still evolving. You're never perfect.
Never. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
How you touched upon execution, right? It's one thing to be a good analyst, and I think you definitely need that. That's like the foundation for any good trader. But trader is basically a strong analyst with superb execution skills, right? The execution aspect is where most people trip up. They can do their technical analysis. They know what their SR is. They know their levels. They know where they think they might want to buy or sell. But when the execution comes, the plan of trade, where's my invalidation? How much am I risking? Where am I targeting? That's what trips up a lot of people. And
Yeah.
it's really key that people understand that that's a work of progress, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And that only way you improve is through trading. And it's like, you got to kind of cut your teeth against the market, take those initial losses and see, hey, this didn't work. Hey, this worked. The stop loss was too close. It was too far. I had too much risk. I over leveraged, whatever the case is. And it's really key that people understand that execution is like a constant process. You're constantly iterating. You know, even if you have your system all concrete, you don't necessarily have the execution down right pat. And that takes time. It's just like we talked about, screen time. And, you know, having that outlet to say, okay, you know, I've been over executing on these trades. I'm trying to really bog myself down in the entry, getting it down to the 5 cents, 10 cent dollar mark, whatever the case is. That, you know, kind of takes away from the whole aspect of the trade because you still have invalidation. You have a target. Then you have trade management. You said this is an emotional profession. It really is if you really let it get to you. So having, you know, outlets to de-stress from the emotion, right? For me, that's meditation. I think that's a huge component for actually getting emotional control because as soon as you get caught up in the execution, oh, I need to get the best entry possible. And then you start getting emotional over it. You start attaching emotions to that entry. You're not going to manage it the right way. As if you were objective, you just came back from a 5 mile walk and you're like, hey, this is how the chart actually is, not how I want it to be, right? So
Yeah.
your will in the market's a real ticking time bomb, in my opinion, there.
Yeah. And, you know, some of the first trades and when you're, yeah. So I kind of look at it like you can step up to a golf ball and take a practice swing and it's really easy and it looks great. But when you step up to the golf ball and you put the club to the ball, the game becomes real and it's very hard to master the mechanics of the practice swing and the real swing. And that's, I don't play golf anymore for that reason. But it's very similar to trading. Like you can map this thing out perfectly. And once you hit that buy and your capital is in the market and your risk on, it becomes a different game and your mindset changes and mastering, you know, how you can manage that and just kind of like trust the trade, essentially walk away. I did that a lot at first because I literally would turn off my screens. I'd get in the trade, I'd turn off my screens. Everything was set. Because if you sit there and watch the trade, and I've done this, and I'm guilty of this because I'm not perfect, I've gotten out of shorts or I've gotten out of longs, and like the market, my call was right. And you're like, damn it, I was influenced by someone on Twitter, or it was in a Telegram, or I just got in my own head. And it just becomes like the mental fortitude that you need to trust what you have as the setup. And it's not perfect every time, and that's part of the game. So it's understanding the rules and accepting kind of the probability, but knowing that you need to trust yourself first.
Yeah.
And you are the master of your own domain. There's no caddy here. Like in golf, this isn't a team sport. I say that all the time. Like trading isn't a team sport. You see someone else take a trade, I could care less what their opinion is because maybe they're right one time, but maybe I'm right. So you just don't know. You need to stay in your own, out of your own head. So yeah, the meditation thing, I have a lot of friends that meditate. I've never done it. I think people probably see that I'm pretty hyper from this already. So it's tough for me to meditate, but I have my own forms of meditation, I guess, like surfing. Can't go surfing right now, but if anytime I'm in the ocean, that's completely clearing my head. So yeah, just know yourself and know your escapes and know how you hit reset on that and take those into consideration when you're really mapping out your day and trading and managing your
I
own.
like how you kind of talked about, it's having the mental fortitude and it's you versus you, right? So like
Yeah,
the market, then you have you, and then you have yourself because it's you versus the market. It's not just you versus the market. It's a zero sum game, but you're trying to master yourself. And that's like the
yeah,
tough part for most people. No one comes in, perfect yogi style meditation. I'm great. I'm trusting myself. I have complete confidence. Maybe it's arrogance, right? And then if you're arrogant in the market quickly gives you a taste of what it's like to be arrogant. But
always checks you. It always checks you.
it always checks you. That's the thing to keep in mind. You can have a hot streak, and that's awesome. If you know you have a hot streak and you're on it, great. That doesn't mean you should change your system or your risk parameters because of it. You should exploit your hot streak. That's awesome. Use it to make money, but don't get cocky and arrogant because at the end of the day, you'll have that losing streak, right? We talked about that in course one. There's an inevitable percentage. You will go on a 5-loss losing streak. And what happens if you're risking 5% on every trade? Well, all of a sudden you just risk 5% 5 times. That's at least 25% drawdown. And we already talked about what it takes to actually re-get that drawdown back. So it's really key to understand that it's you versus you, and mastery over yourself comes with time, right? So emotional control, having that outlet to really fight yourself, but also fight the market. And trying not to impose your will on the market. I've done that way too many times where I thought, this is a local bottom or top, and I'm like, I'm going quote unquote all in, and then I get my ass handed to me, and it's like,
Yeah,
what? Well, I put my will onto the market, and the market doesn't care what I think.
yeah,
Even some of the best traders in the equities market, they don't try to impose their will. They might have a lot of capital, but no one decides what the market's going to do, right? Having this invisible hand thesis that there's whales or they or market makers pushing it this way and that way. We've learned it's really just that conversation between buyers and sellers. Whoever has a larger hand is because they have more money and firepower at that moment. That's constantly changing and evolving. So being privy to that, I think, is the first way to understand that the market is the market. It's a complete natural force that's going on at one time. And the participants are you and me. And whoever has the upper hand in that moment holds it only temporarily until there's a shift in control. So those are just certain things I think people need to understand that, yeah, it's just a market that moves and you are a piece of the puzzle. You are not the entire puzzle, nor is the puzzle beknownst to you.
yeah. And just filtering out noise. I mean, crypto in particular, you have a 24-hour dialogue that's going on, and everyone is putting their own opinion into the equation. And Twitter, especially, mastering how to block that out is a really big part of it
Yeah.
because
It's easy to get swept up.
yeah, it is, especially when people are talking about short-term moves. And as we know, high time frame takes precedence, holds the most weight. Like, and I'm still guilty of it. All the short-term moves will get me, and that's we're constantly trying to perfect our own system and get those bad habits out of the way, but they always creep back in. It's just
It's like that feedback loop, right?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it was a good overview of kind of get people in gear for what it takes to get in the mindset, some things that they could look at as ways, outlets to reset, escape, keep a fresh mind. The routine is such a big thing. Nutrition is a really big thing for me too, actually.
Yeah.
And during the quarantine, you can't go out and eat. So I've been eating extremely well for like a month and a half now. And it's dictated a lot of my routine. Breakfast, I have my granola and a banana, and I look at the markets and I feel like I'm in a healthy state and I could get a fresh look at things. I usually go on a walk around lunchtime and then come back, reassess, check in with crypto insiders, look at Twitter. Afternoon, kind of see what's happening. Obviously watch the macro space very closely. So everything's looking at S&P. Oil prices in particular time are pretty insane right now. And the routine of just time, eating, and exercise throughout the day. So yeah, you guys can figure it out on your own. It's not a hard thing to do. It's just up to you to plan it out and make it happen.
It's not a one size fits all. It's really
Yeah,
about what works for you. You might like having your cheat meal, whatever it is, popcorn, whatever the food of choice is, and that's fine. But I've always noticed, like you were talking about nutrition, that when I have a sluggish day, whether it be trading or maybe at the gym or eating crappy, I don't translate that into my best performance, right? We talk about being, as a trader, you're basically a professional athlete trying to perform at their best. And you don't see, some of these sports superstars pounding chips and salsa or popcorn or whatever other, heavy food it is, and then thinking they can perform at their best, right? It's key because the stuff that you put into your body, even your mind, right? Meditation, whatever it is, whatever you're inputting into the body gets a certain output, right? And the quality of that output is dictated by what you put in, right? You're not going to put shitty gas into a Ferrari. You're going to put some premium lead or premium diesel, whatever the case is.
True.
Knowing that you have a routine and you stick to it is key, because that discipline will translate to being able to run and perform at your best. So that's really just the overarching point. It's having a routine, being disciplined, having that work-life balance. So when things do get tough, and I promise you, they will get tough during times, you have not only a system for trading that drawdown, but you have a personal mental routine for how you're going to actually survive periods of drawdown in your life, right? Sometimes my life's great, sometimes it gets a little tough, and that's natural. It's the ebb and flow of life. And knowing that, we're humans, like you said, we're not going to be perfect all the time. It's a constant struggle to iterate and improve. Knowing that when we get to certain inflection points, not in the market, but in our lives, this too shall pass, right? So if it's really great, it gets really shitty, it gets really great, that's life. And being privy to that and knowing that how you feel internally does not need to externally showcase itself in the market, right? So separating the two, having the work-life balance, and being able to separate work from home.
Yep, 100%. So let's leave it at that. And we wanted to just wrap up Course 3 with you guys on this note and kind of bring it full circle on everything that we've been trying to get you in gear with from Course 1 and 2 into 3. Now you're really getting into the mindset of a trader. And as we get into the fourth course, liquidity theory, it's going to be a large component of kind of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And to do that, you need to have a good mindset, because it's not easy, but the clearer you are and the direction you want to take and the routine you have, it's going to become easier, as we believe, and through experience, it's helped us.
And at the end of the day, you're playing a zero-sum game against algorithms, other traders, market makers, whoever else you want to call it. And liquidity theory is an extension of our understanding of how we view the market in terms of how price moves, where liquidity comes from, what that translates into. And it all comes down to game theory, right? It's trying to outwit the other trader, the other opposing party. And you're going to see a lot of that as we move forward into the next course and really dive into what makes me tick, what makes him tick, and how that kind of translates into market participants buying and selling and trading against one another. So I think this is a good spot to wrap up. We wish you the best of luck. This is not an easy game, but we're positive that with strong reinforcement, consistent discipline, and a routine, you're much more ahead of the curve than most. So thanks for sticking with us thus far, and we'll see you in liquidity theory.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye-bye now.